Hi folks. If you clicked on this video, well, I think there's a good chance that you have heard of this band. But you could just be one of my lovely subscribers, return viewers, or my beloved members. Either way, welcome to my channel. And if you, by any chance, haven't heard of the Bloodhound Gang, you may want to pause this video and go just look up a little stuff on them. Just to help you understand any odd things I may say. I can't lie, they have a bit of a reputation, but I still consider them family. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about my work experience with the Bloodhound Gang. You know, I thought about making this video for a while now, but honestly, I didn't know where to begin. However, recently, I got a few messages on Instagram. Just a few, but they were Bloodhound Gang fans and had seen the few videos I made where I talked about, working at concerts and such. And some of them directly requested that I make some more videos like those, talking about the concerts and also my experience with the Bloodhound Gang. Of course, some of them had the usual variety of typical Bloodhound Gang fan questions. Questions like, will he get a new album? What are they doing now? Is Jimmy Pop really gay? Is Evil Jared really evil? Did you get that job because you were dating one of them? And to answer those questions to the best of my ability, because I am not them, I guess I could say probably not anytime soon. Beyond what they themselves share publicly on social media sites, I'd say probably none of your business. And probably probably none of your business. And for sure. But also, F you, I got that question almost every night at that job. No, I like to think I got that job because I'm damn good at sales and I saw an opportunity to support friends and help them make a profit off of their art. Pretty much every night I got that damn question in some way, shape, or form, like, who are you banging and is that one your boyfriend? The implication / question was asked of me so often and annoyed me so much, I started to get pretty creative and crude in some of my responses. Like, I'll never forget a Dutch festival I was working at. And this one guy, a younger Dutch guy, comes up to my merch booth, wants to buy a t-shirt, seems nice enough, sets his, I think, like 10 euro beers, 2 of them, down on my merch table. Kind of a no-no, but he was buying 2 shirts, so I sold him his shirts. However, from the moment he arrived at my stand till I took his cash, he, tried to present it friendly, but just kept wanting to know who exactly in the band I was hooking up with, because he just couldn't comprehend, I guess, that a female could, have this job to work. And I'm telling you, this kid persisted with this implication that the only way I could be in that position was if I was a hoe. Once I had his cash in hand and he had his t-shirts in hand, I then looked him dead in the eyes and I very kindly asked him what his mother did for work. And he very fondly revealed to me that his mother was a teacher at the local school. I have to clean up my language here for YouTube, but basically I asked him if his mother's, knees hurt and her jaw was tired from, the principal and all the other people she had to tend to in that school in order to get her position as a teacher. What was hilarious to me was this guy was so offended I would say that. Now granted, it's a festival and this guy is drunk. But now he looks at me and starts demanding I apologize. How could I say that about his mother? And for the 10th time I tried to point out to the guy that pretty much that's the implication he's making with me and that's okay. And this guy has the balls to look at me and actually said something like, yeah, but come on. I had had enough. I had heard it enough. And my job here was done. I sold him his t-shirts. I felt I no longer had to tolerate this. And probably because he was drunk, when I repeatedly asked him to leave, he wasn't so quick about it and kept with the blah blah. I admit I lost my temper and I grabbed those 2 10-euro beers and I picked them up, both of them, and I threw them over his head and told him to go fetch. I then proceeded to tend to the other customers at the merch booth who found this all quite amusing and said, "Good for me." I know I just got a little off track there with that story, but I don't know if you can imagine just how annoying that is when it really was a constant assumption. Listen, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I'm originally from Pennsylvania, although I live in Germany now. And guess what? Bloodhound Gang, they're from Pennsylvania. I'm from what's considered a suburb of Philly. They're from what's considered a suburb of Philly. Honestly, it's not that surprising that we know each other. I have a background in sales and am a bit of a nerd about it. They wanted to make a profit off of merchandise at concerts. I like concerts, and luckily they liked me. Bada bing, bada boom. But just to keep it real with you all, I mean, before I took on that role as merch girl, before I officially started working, I mean, I could have been spotted backstage at many of their concerts drinking their free beer. You see, I'm that good of a friend. If you got free beer, I'll help you drink it. Oh boy, but we're really going back in time here. If I recall correctly, we're going back to like the time of the early 2000s to, I believe, the last tour where I sold merchandise for them was in 2013. It may or may not have ended in an international incident, but that could be a whole nother video on its own. But I really gotta say, it was such a gift for me that when I moved to Germany in 2001, that every once in a while, some funny guys I knew from Pennsylvania would come on through, put on a hilarious concert, and I would be on the list. Thanks for that, guys. I was so thankful, and I didn't want to just be a freeloader. I mean, like I said, I helped them drink their free beer, but I mean, my friends were like living out of bags in a bus, and if I could help, I would help. If I could bring them little treats or snacks or maybe run an errand, I would offer. From time to time, I was known to assist in little translating adventures with fans, or maybe even gathering a few for after parties. You see, like, for me, I was at this time new in Germany, completely submerging myself in the culture, learning the language, really far from home, and kind of missing it from time to time. So when they came around, it wasn't just for me like, I love this band, a concert, woo! It was like, I'm really thankful for this. This is saving my sanity a little bit. Where I moved to in Franken, Germany was just so different to my life in America. And I often felt alone, so yeah, it was really nice that from time to time I could hang out with guys from where I'm from that had similar sense of humor to me, spoke like me, we got the same jokes, and bonus, they put on a fun concert. So when I had the opportunity to jump in as Euro merch girl for the Bloodhound Gang, you bet your sweet Bippy I took it. Every night, a new city, sometimes every night a new country, and every night music? Yeah, I'm in for that. I mean, I have always loved music and always wanted to travel. I've always been curious about other cultures and acknowledge the world is huge and I'll probably never see it all or even a lot, but I wanted to. So make no doubt about it, this opportunity to be the merch girl for them and travel around and sell their t-shirts and such was absolutely a dream come true for me. I admit it was weird and crazy at times, but a dream come true nonetheless. Right, and so when I would be traveling around with them, generally we were a crew, this is including, band and crew together. Generally we were a crew of anywhere from 12 to 15. And I'm sure you can imagine, as the only female on a crew of 13 to 15 men in a heavily male-dominated industry, I felt that I had to often prove myself and being in that position. Whether it was the local workers at clubs we would arrive at that would just assume I was some groupie stepping out of the tour bus in the morning, or fans that just assume dumb or offensive things, or even people working next to me that questioned if this little girl should be a roadie. Well, Armstrong here, I had to be the alpha male. And I I think I did just that. Even though I was technically only responsible for merchandise and selling t-shirts and such, I never shied away from a load in or a load out, carrying equipment and such. Mostly due to my impatience and waiting for someone to help me, I was not above taking giant boxes full of sweatshirts and t-shirts, putting them over my head and marching across festival grounds. Right, so I took responsibility of their merch when on tour in Europe, and these guys took me from essentially the UK to all the way beyond Moscow. And to be clear, from time to time, when a merchandiser was not needed, I would jump in as band assistant, which isn't as fancy as it sounds. It's pretty much coffee grabbing, laundry washing, therapy giving. So I became a roadie, thanks to these guys. And I earned several nicknames at that job. My favorite one was Trucker. I think it was a mix of, I got the job done, but also I had a trucker mouth. I wasn't afraid to say what I needed to get the job done. But if you met me back in this time, there's a good chance you may have been introduced to me as Cousin Christy. And I gotta say, in all of my years of working in sales, all sales jobs all together, that nickname is one I do personally cherish, but also one I would say I cherish most is the title Euro Merch Girl for the Bloodhound gang. I always include it in my resumes, and it pretty much always brings me some interesting and sometimes strange questions. Questions at job interviews like, did you ever get peed on? Did you ever get vomited on? And to answer those, I would have to say not directly and no. No. But in all seriousness, I loved the freedom of that job. It was truly in that job where I realized in my heart that when I am happy, I do my best work. It's true, folks. When you really love what you're doing and you really enjoy your atmosphere and the people who put you in this position, you really have a different drive about supporting them and taking care of your responsibilities. Like, in my heart of hearts at that job, I wanted nothing but to do the best I could for them. In my position as merch girl or assistant or whatever I was doing that day, I was hands-on and loving it. I recall arriving often at some clubs that wouldn't have a dedicated merch area. Because it's difficult to make a table with boundaries and a place to hang t-shirts and provide that to bands performing in your venue. But I'm saying I became a master of scavenging clubs and bars for a bar stool, a table, duct tape, anything I could use to build up my little merch stand. And I loved climbing like a monkey to duct tape my shirts to the walls and make my own perfect little merch area. I loved the physical parts of the job. Carrying heavy things and moving stuff around. I'm telling you, when I did this job, I was in my, early, mid-30s, and I'm telling you, I was easily as in shape as I was in my 20s. But as I say that, and I think back to how I lived on tour, I'm sure my lungs and liver may disagree. Although it's not one of the easiest or healthiest lifestyles, living on the road like that, working concerts every night with easy access to alcohol and such. But also not always the greatest shower or toilet situations. I was prepared for it. Living in a tour bus, for me, felt a little bit like living in a trailer. I lived in a trailer. Or a little bit like camping. And I grew up camping. Like most of my family vacations, that's pretty much what we did. We went on the road and then we went camping somewhere. I've never been a really picky eater. I'm not scared of dirty toilets. I'm fine with garbage coffee from truck stops. I don't mind and even slightly enjoy getting a little dirty. I'm just saying, a lot of things about life on the road as a roadie reminded me of my childhood. And your average roadie is a sort of bigger man. I would say, just statistically, if we were speaking about roadies, most people get a picture in their head of a big guy, the kind of guy that can carry a lot of equipment and amps and such. But guess what? Big guys, they often don't fit comfortably in tour bus beds, but not me. I had no problem. I not only fit perfectly in even the cheapest and crummiest of tour buses, but I would pretty much turn my little bunk in the tour bus into like a mini apartment, because I'm tiny. So it just kind of gave me like a little bit of a chuckle that a lot of the things that a lot of people complained about that job and on tour, I didn't really have much of a problem with, and I was having a blast. I was just camping, and I was happy. I was living a little bit of a dream. I had a job I loved doing, and I was doing it for people that made me laugh my ass off, and I was seeing other cultures, other countries. I was learning so much. I was selling to and meeting thousands and thousands of people, just gaining so much experience on human behavior and humans in general. So needless to say, that is one of the best job experiences that I've ever had in my life to date. And even better, when I look back and I compare that job to, for example, a lot of normal retail sales jobs I've done, I have to say I am really impressed. Out of all of the people I've worked for, all of the employers I've gone through, I'll say, that still to this day, looking back, these crazy guys in the Bloodhound gangs, they were the ones that truly had my back and supported me most in my job position. The level of support as an employee of the Bloodhound gang, or a member of the gang, if you will, the level of support that I received in that job position was quite similar to a gang. And I love them for that. And I mean, they weren't all good times, as anybody would suspect, and I think is normal for any job that one does for a bunch of years. Nothing, nobody, nowhere, nothing's perfect. Life would be boring if it was. But 9 times out of 10, on that job with them, if I needed something or someone, I got assistance. I can't think of a damn single retail job that exists where any employee can say that 9 times out of 10 they get the support and assistance they need. Not in normal retail, not as I know it.
I shouldn't even get into the time after the one concert in that one really rich fancy pants country in Europe where the guy cornered me outside of a club and somehow I ended up in a headlock. And as I was basically trying to defend myself and get out of said headlock, I heard from a short distance away from the tour bus, the words were proclaimed, "Nobody F's with Cousin Christy!" The guy that had me in a headlock, he got taken down.
I might have said too much. I digress. I'm just saying that my heart has never been so touched as it was on that night by an employer coming to defend me in such a way that I really needed at that point, especially on that night with that creepy dude. I feel like I'm babbling again, so yeah. Anyway, on a more personal level, honestly, I don't know if the guys really are aware of just how much good they really did for me by putting me in that position as merch girl. I feel like it's important to mention that around the time that I started doing this with them, I was also in a marriage that was beginning to show all the signs of not working. And hard as I was working on learning the language and trying to find jobs, I was getting very frustrated because I was finding where I lived, not a lot of people wanted to hire me for jobs. A lot of people didn't want to employ me because I wasn't educated in Germany and didn't have the paperwork that said that. Some people, I think, never even called me back for job interviews because I was just a foreigner, and I think they just assumed I couldn't do German. And, finding jobs in sales were really kind of tricky. My German wasn't great. Obviously, it took me a few years to get it in the beginning, and I had a really thick accent. And, most frustrating, straight up. I found myself down there in Franken at a local unemployment agency, the Arbeitsamt, and the lady looked me dead in the eyes when I asked her why she wasn't helping me get sales jobs, and she said to me, nobody would employ me with my accent. My guess is that lady never heard of the Bloodhound gang. The Bloodhound gang hired me with that accent. And just to reinforce what a struggle it was. So, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to take on this job, and I'm going to go on tour and sell t-shirts for the Bloodhound gang. So, as a foreigner in Germany who respects the very complicated system, I found myself going to the local government office, the Amt, where one goes to fill out the paperwork for to be self-employed, for what they call a Gewerbe here. It was that Amt. And I explained to this guy my opportunities, my ideas, how I was going to, for example, not just do this one job, that I knew some others, and, I could build on this and do more jobs like this. And this guy who had to give me my paperwork that allowed me to work self-employed here in Germany looked me dead in the eyes, and he said to me in German, "Kein Band wird Ihnen einstellen, Ihre T-Shirts zu verkaufen. Das gibt's nicht." I believe it was only a few weeks later that I was on a tour bus on my way to, I believe it was Denmark, to do just that, sell t-shirts for a band, and I'm pretty sure that guy was still sitting in that musty, stinky, dark government office. So you see, when the opportunity came up to do this, I wasn't having the easiest of time, and they really saved my sanity in a couple ways. In some ways, they took me away from it all, but exposed me to things that totally educated me and would assist me in the future, working in sales, for example. So I'm just saying, my work experience with the Bloodhound gang as their merch girl on tour in Europe was one of the most valuable work experiences of my life, because it exposed me to so much, different people, different cultures, different places. But it also gave me more opportunities, introduced me to people, things, and that would lead to other jobs. And I'm telling you, I learned so much about human behavior. There were times on that tour bus where I felt a little bit like Jane Goodall, and I remember being proud that the gorillas had accepted me as one of them. And while it wasn't always perfect, I can clearly look back and say that the good by far so outweigh any of the bad.
And that includes the time that one hit me in the head, but I said too much. That could possibly be another video.
Right. So I imagine some of you out there may have some questions. Generally, when I mention that I worked for the Bloodhound gang, or I talk about any of the crazy stories from times traveling around with them, generally anytime this topic comes up in my life, it generally just creates more questions. So here's what we're going to do. I would like to right now encourage you to leave a comment below asking me any question you want about this topic. If I get enough questions, I will make a follow-up video just answering all of your questions directly to the best of my ability. Remember, keep in mind, I'm not them. Sometimes people ask me things that you should ask them, not the girl that sold their t-shirts. And I can't lie, I actually am kind of excited about what kind of questions I may get down below, because if there's one thing I learned about selling Bloodhound gang merchandise at their concerts is that they have such an eclectic mix of fans. I'm telling you, I think a good way I could explain it to you is if I said to you tomorrow I was going to go work at a metal concert, I'm sure you could immediately get a picture in your head of what a metal music listening customer looks like. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule, but what I found interesting was when I would work at the concerts with the Bloodhound gang, their fan base really mixed. Just really, really mixed. And surprises would pop up constantly. Freaking loved it. Bloodhound Gang fans are really cool and a lot of fun to sell to. I'm glad I got to do it for a bunch of years, and hey, who knows? Maybe one day again. I doubt it though. Slackers. Anyway, let me know what you want to know. Please, if you're new here and you want to hear more stories like this, then consider subscribing, ringing the bell for notifications, and before you get out of here, don't forget to click like, because I like you, and most of all, I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you watching. And until the next video, you make sure that you take care of yourself.